The family that lived in what remains of this house is in mourning. 3 were killed when the walls of the room where they slept collapsed. A 4-year-old child is still missing.
When
the mudslide took place, she was washed away. We don't know where she is. She hasn't been found. We've tried to get police here, but they still haven't come.
The sudden deluge left residents helpless. One woman points to where a house was swept away with 2 children inside.
We are in a climate change emergency, with global temperatures set to rise a further 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2034. No part of the world is immune to the deadly and harmful effects of extreme weather conditions, which have, can, and will continue to drive the spread of non-communicable diseases, infectious diseases, as well as the decline of global mental health. My name is Lynn Hendricks, and today I would like to share with you a short talk on how we move from the Anthropocene to the Symbioscene, and we position the climate crisis as a health crisis. Climate change, mental health, and other social factors are intertwined in a complex entanglement. And although the advancement of technology and economic innovations have moved us forward, the consequential effects of these have been detrimental to the planet. In places like Egypt and Qatar, people need air conditioning units just to survive the 50-degree plus days. But more air conditioning means more greenhouse gas emissions, which, as we know, has detrimental effects on our health. The traditional rhetoric of the Symbioscene has been to focus on the effects of humans on the environment. But to do so in a context like South Africa would be to deny the reality experienced by many. In countries like South Africa, many experiences are interwoven with layers of anxiety and trauma and covered by years of colonialism, apartheid, and social injustices, while straddling the barriers of climate injustice. Social, historical, and political factors operating at different scales affect levels of vulnerability to environmental change. The Anthropocene is not only a geological era, but also presents us with an opportunity to embrace new ontologies and new ways of understanding. I would like to share with you a small example of a recent study we did, where we looked at the adherence experiences of young women living with perinatal infections of HIV. While the direct health impacts of climate change, including the psychological and physiological effects, are relatively well understood, indirect effects on health are harder to identify, such as the impacts on livelihoods or the effects of medication adherence. The endemic burden of climate change and HIV in sub-Saharan Africa continues to affect the livelihoods of individuals, families, and communities, including additional challenges such as having to migrate to other spaces to access general healthcare or food security. Support systems might be impacted. It's at the back now. I put it something. And how many do you take a day?
1 at night.
1 at night.
Like that's just a very awful color. I don't know, I just don't like the color.
What would you prefer it to be?
A white one.
So let's take, can you take one out? If you could tell this tablet something, what would it be?
Clue.
Using the biopsychosocial model as our starting framework, we introduce the concept and theory of new materialism. We then framed our understanding using a model we called the biopsychosocial materialism model of understanding adherence to antiretroviral treatment. What we found is that new materialism not only adds a new dimension to the biopsychosocial model, but it also redraws its boundaries, presenting it as an assemblage of interacting agents rather than a set of independent categories that influence one another in the linear fashion. The model depicts relational interactions and the effects of the elements and the impact on adherence and treatment behaviors. Circular in fashion, the factors are not static, but they're in constant flux with human experiences varying along these continuums. The arrows on the sides of the atoms represent the tipping points of moving in and out of adherence. And we see how they intersect and interact with one another in a very non-linear way. If we aim to move towards a Symbioscene, this means an era where all life forms exist within a synergetic symbiosis. We all living in harmony, a constant state of interconnection. Then we cannot continue to use traditional models of understanding without examining its utility to account for the entangled nature of all agents, human, non-human, and more than human. Adopting a new materialist perspective changed the way we saw phenomena, and it also allows us to influence epistemologies, ontologies, and methodologies. We moved away from the individualistic and dualistic experience to a more entangled, interconnected one. Crises, pandemics, and emergencies do not happen in isolation. The climate crisis is a health crisis, as this talk situated. And our health is intertwined with the planet's. The interactions between the environment and human health have long been concerned to the health professions. And these interactions remain relevant to contemporary issues within public health, environmental health, and health protection. There's an immediate need, and I challenge you, researchers, practitioners, decision makers, to rethink and reframe traditional models and theories of global public and mental health to be relevant to the present climate change emergency. We have a responsibility to adequately prepare ourselves, our families, our communities, and our citizens of this world to meaningfully address the climate crisis and to move from the Anthropocene to the Symbioscene. And to do this, we need more diverse worldviews and ways of knowing. I would like to thank you for listening to this talk on the climate crisis is a health crisis and how we move from the Anthropocene to the Symbioscene by reimagining theory. You are more than welcome to watch the full-length documentary on my channel. And we also thank the Global Minds Scholarship from KU Leuven for supporting this work.